All right, welcome back to On Fire Fantasy, a show all about points leagues and part of the Old Man Squad Fantasy Sports Network. I'm your host here, Jacob Dunne, and today we're going to be going over my top 3 10-plus team ads, top 3 12-plus team ads, and top 3 14-plus team ads, and plus some streamers to consider over the weekend. But first, it's Christmas season, and I've taken it upon myself to play Santa and gift you all with my rest of season points league rankings, which you can find over on Fantrax, which I'll drop a link to the article in the description if you want to check it out. You can also find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunne is spelled D-U-N-N-E, where I post daily streamers that include 12 plus players every single day. So with that, let's dive in. All right, now before I get into my must ads, I wanted to quickly go over some streamers for this weekend. And the only team that plays back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday this weekend is the Golden State Warriors. All right, the Golden State Warriors are the only team that play on Saturday and Sunday. So all of you who need to save up their moves or only have one move left or even two moves left should absolutely consider streaming one of these guys. And first up on my list is Brandon Pajemski, which he is owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues. So he's probably not available in yours, but if he is available in yours, he is having an amazing streak of games. Now, before Thursday's clunker against the Sixers, he was having a string of massive performances where back on November 19th, he got 29.6 fantasy points and then 32.5, 21.5, 22.8, 33, and 26.8 before that clunker versus the Sixers. But I fully expect him to bounce back because there will be no Steph Curry this weekend because he did not travel with the team. And also Jimmy Butler, he was out against the Sixers on Thursday, and he could very possibly be out this weekend, or he will most likely only play one of those games if he is healthy enough to play. So I would definitely think about streaming Brandon Pajemski in shallow leagues if he's available in your league. Next up, I want to point out Moses Moody. Moses Moody is widely available. I believe he's rostered in 12% of leagues. Let me fact check that. 14% of Yahoo leagues. He did struggle in the game before on December 2nd. He only got 4.9 fantasy points in 15 minutes, but tonight versus the Sixers, he started. He played 23 minutes, and he got 21.4 fantasy points. So someone who is available in 86% of Yahoo leagues, he should definitely be streamed for that back-to-back. And then next up is Jonathan Kuminga. For all of the volatility this year and all of the craziness over the offseason between him and the Warriors, he hasn't been great, and he missed a ton of time over the past few weeks, and he just now returned back on November 29th. And in his return, he got 19 minutes where he scored 10 points, 1 rebound, and 2 assists. So 12.2 fantasy points. And then he got 18.9 fantasy points versus a tough OKC defense. And then on Thursday versus the Sixers, he got 16.2. So it seems like he's going to be limited to around 20 minutes, which is what he got tonight, which is promising. So perhaps his minutes get upped even more over the weekend. He may sit out one of those games coming back from that long list of injuries, so just watch out for that. But if he winds up playing one of those games, he should be a solid streamer for you. Next up, I'm very intrigued by Pat Spencer. And to be honest, I'm always intrigued by people who have 2 first names as their first and last name, but also that stash. I mean, look at that stash. Incredible. So Pat Spencer has virtually come out of nowhere. And over the last 2 games, he's gotten 32.6 fantasy points and 27.8 fantasy points. And he has played 21 minutes and 24 minutes in those games, respectively. So I would definitely think about picking up Pat Spencer as he's available in 99% of Yahoo leagues. So keep him in mind. And lastly, I want to bring up Buddy Hield, the sharpshooter from Oklahoma. Buddy Hield has had an excellent past 2 games. Back on December 2nd against a tough OKC defense, he got 26.2 fantasy points in 28 minutes. And then tonight on Thursday versus the Sixers, he got 35.6 fantasy points in 25 minutes. He got 8 boards, which, I mean, he hasn't gotten 8 boards all season. So that's definitely a season high for him. I don't expect that number of boards to be repeatable, but at least he got you 14 points and 2 assists and 2 steals, which is definitely repeatable for Buddy. So I would definitely look at him. So that is probably the order that I would do it. Actually, I would probably switch up Jonathan Kuminga last because he might not play in back-to-back games due to coming off of that long layoff with the injury. Here's how I would rank them. Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, Pat Spencer, Buddy Hield, and then Jonathan Kuminga. So that is it for the streamers this weekend. All right, and next up, we got our fantasy basketball must-add player tier list for 10-plus teams. And I want to start it off by talking about Toumani Camara. All right, Toumani Camara is on fire, in fuego, over his past 3 games. Over the past 3 games, dating back to November 30th against OKC, he got 31.6 fantasy points, and then 34.2, and then 34.2 again. And in those games, he has gotten 38 minutes, 36 minutes, and 35 minutes. And in those games, he has scored 19 points, 21 points, and 17 points, along with not getting anything less than 6 rebounds, anything less than 2 assists. So he is really balling out for the Blazers right now, and he would be my priority 10-team add right now as he is, as I said earlier, in fuego. So I would definitely rank him in the S tier out of my top 3 right now. So Toumani Camara, he is rostered in 43% of Yahoo leagues, and I think that number is too low. It should be way above 50, maybe even 60. And then next up on my list, everyone's favorite player, Dillon Brooks. Over the past 3 games, he has scored 28.6, 34.6, and 37.4. So needless to say, he is getting along famously without Devin Booker and Jalen Green. Dillon Brooks has been killing it, which is crazy for me to say. But Dillon Brooks has, for the past few games, has been the heart and soul of that Suns team. And he should continue soaking up that usage. And not to mention last game against the Lakers, he scored 33 real life points. And then before that, it was 27 real life points and then 19 real life points. So he is providing scoring, low end rebounds, low end assists, and has gotten at least 1 steal over the past 3 games. If you are not in the mood to lock in Dillon Brooks for the rest of the season, at least stream him, because he is on fire right now, and he is going to continue to produce as long as Devin Booker is sidelined with that groin injury. So he is definitely right under Toumani Camara. And then lastly, I feel like I talk about Noah Clowney every single week. And now that he is 30% rostered in Yahoo, he no longer qualifies for a 12-team ad, because I like to limit. So 10 teams, it's anyone below 45% rostered in Yahoo leagues. And Clowney is now in that threshold of, is he a 10-team or just a 12-team? Well, I think he is a 10-team ad. And that's because he has been starting for a while now. And he was dropped by a lot of people back on November 29th when he only got 5.7 fantasy points on November 29th. But that was just a small blip, and I knew it would just be a small blip because he's still young, and that Nets team has a lot of people who want to put the ball in the bucket. Okay, so before that 5.7 fantasy point clunker, the 4 games before that, he got 34.6 fantasy points, 31.7 fantasy points, 38.3 fantasy points, 34.9 fantasy points. Then he had the clunker, and then he followed that up by bouncing back against the Hornets with 29.4, and then 31.4, and then 44.3 fantasy points on Thursday versus the Jazz. I mean, he is on fire. All right, that's 3 games in a row that he has dominated. And that is after he had that clunker, that 5.7 fantasy point clunker. So he bounced back. Now we know that he has what it takes to put behind a bad game and continue on that pace where he was at. They want to see what they have in him, and they want him to keep developing. So he should start for the rest of the season. So there's no reason why he should be on your waiver wire in any 10-plus team league. And next up are 12-plus team ads. All right. And first up, and honestly, it's not even that close for me, Ryan Nembhard. Ryan Nembhard has virtually come out of nowhere to be the starting point guard for the Dallas Mavericks, an undrafted rookie. Incredible. As you guys have probably guessed or surmised, Ryan Nembhard is the brother of Andrew Nembhard, Indiana Pacers point guard. And he has seized that Dallas Maverick starting point guard role, and it doesn't look like he's giving it up anytime soon. It seems like the Mavericks are over the Brandon Williams experiment, and now they're moving on to an undrafted rookie. I mean, that's where we are in Maverick land right now, but it looks like they found a gem, because over the past 2 games, he has scored 46.6 fantasy points and 42.5 fantasy points. And in those games, he has got, let's say, last December 1st against the Nuggets in Denver. He played 35 minutes, scored 28 points, grabbed 3 rebounds, and dished out 10 assists. And then this past game against the Heat on December 3rd, he played 34 minutes and scored 15 points, grabbed 5 boards, dished out 13 dimes, and got a steal. I mean, this guy is, I would only say he's heating up, because NBA Jam rules is that if you score 2 in a row, or if you have 2 great games in a row, you are heating up. But I mean, I don't need him to be on fire to know that he is starting. He has played 35 and 34 minutes over the past 2 games, respectively. And he's scoring and he's getting assists. I mean, Ryan Nembhard, he needs to be, I mean, in my opinion, he should be universally rostered, at least universally streamed until the wheels fall off. If the wheels fall off, you know, he is still very young, and, you know, like, he is going to go through waves. So I'm sure that a crash will happen soon. But hopefully he can go in the way of Noah Clowney, that when he has that clunker game, he can bounce back and, you know, like, be the player that we are seeing right now. So right now, Nembhard is definitely a priority add in 12-plus team leagues, and I would even consider streaming him in 10-plus team leagues and even shallower leagues than that if you're in that. All right, so Ryan Nembhard is S tier for sure. And then next up, we got Jalen Tyson. Jalen Tyson, also someone who came out of virtually nowhere to be a key part of a very good Cavs team. Jalen Tyson has had 5 games in a row where he has put either solid numbers or elite numbers. So dating back to November 24th, he scored 31.8 fantasy points, and then 21.9, and then 36.5, 47.2 against the Pacers on December 1st, and then 25.4 against the Blazers. All of this while he is starting. So I would definitely pick him up. And the reason why I have him over the next guy that I'm going to talk about is just because he's been starting, and it looks like he's going to be the starter for the rest of the season. Whereas the next guy here, his starting spot is not guaranteed because of an injury in front of him. So Jalen Tyson would definitely be my A tier guy right here. My A tier ad. And then lastly, Peyton Watson, which I mentioned last week. And I'm going to mention him again because his roster number is still under 30%. And that's the threshold that I have for 12 plus team leagues. Anyone who is rostered in under 30% of Yahoo leagues, he is currently rostered in 27% of leagues, and he keeps producing. He hasn't scored under 21.5 fantasy points since November 12th. So after that November 12th game, he has scored 23.6, 21.10, 49.9, 28.5, 21.9, 42.5, 31.7, 21.5, 34.5, 31.4. I mean, that's as consistent as you can get. And he hasn't played less than 28 minutes over that span. He's getting huge minutes for a competing Nuggets team. So I would definitely add him, and he's definitely a priority stream in shallow leagues until Aaron Gordon comes back. That is why Peyton Watson is a B tier ad behind Tyson, because Tyson most likely has that starting role locked up for the rest of the season, barring injury. Peyton Watson is kind of on borrowed time, but Aaron Gordon is still expected to miss a few more weeks. So I would definitely stream Peyton Watson in shallow leagues, and he is a must add in 12 plus team leagues. So that'll do it for my 12 plus team league ads. And next up, we got our 14 plus team league ads. I got 3 players for you, and I'm going to start it off with AJ Green. AJ Green of the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, as most of you know, Giannis went down with an injury. It was a non-contact injury. And he's likely facing some kind of absence. We just don't know yet. But even before that, AJ Green was cooking. Over his past 5 games, he has scored 36 fantasy points, 29.5, 25.1, 24.5, and 30.4. Extremely consistent. And in that time, he's gotten 36 minutes, 39 minutes, 23 minutes, 31 minutes, and a whopping 40 minutes on December 3rd against the Pistons in a huge win, might I add. So AJ Green is being counted on by this Bucks team to score and to do what they have to do to win. So I would definitely look to add him in 14 plus team leagues, as he is rostered in only 16% of Yahoo leagues, which will definitely change soon, because whether or not Giannis is out long term, he is at least out for the next week, and probably more, because that looked scary. And AJ Green has been producing, and he should be on every single team roster in 14 plus team leagues, and seriously consider streaming him in 12 plus team leagues. All right, and next up on my list, and he was on this list last week, is TJ McConnell. Now, I know that TJ McConnell had a clunker game back on December 1st, and he was dropped by a lot of teams. He was just rostered in 20% of Yahoo leagues a few games ago. Now, all of a sudden, he's only rostered in 17% of leagues. He followed up that clunker of a 9.7 fantasy point game with 35.2 fantasy points against the Nuggets, where he got 14 points, 6 dimes, and 3 steals. He's gotten at least 1 steal over the past 4 games. And over the past, 6 games. 6 games ago, he got 32.7 fantasy points, 31.4 fantasy points, 35.8 fantasy points, 32.6 fantasy points. And then he had that clunker with 9.7 fantasy points. Then he bounced back with 35.2. I mean, he is producing in limited minutes, although he did just play 25 minutes 3 games ago. So it looks like the Pacers are bringing back the reins on his minutes restriction, and it looks like he's going to get anywhere between 23 to 26, 27 minutes a night moving forward, which is excellent, especially since he's only rostered in 17% of Yahoo leagues. So I would definitely consider picking him up. And last on my list is Luke Cornett. And if you guys didn't see his game-saving block on Franz Wagner, I would absolutely recommend you looking that up right now, because it was beautiful. And he even did a little celly afterwards that was super sick. So Luke Cornett, I remember when Wemby first went down, he was a hot pickup, probably the hottest pickup of that day. And then he flopped. But real ones know that you don't just cut bait after one game. You have to ride it out because he has started every single game since Wemby went down. And for the past 6 games, he has played 28 minutes, 28 minutes, 28 minutes, 24 minutes, 28 minutes, 28 minutes. So it looks like the Spurs are set on giving him anywhere between 24 to 28 minutes, with 28 minutes being very consistent right there. And what do we want in points leagues? We want minutes, okay? And in that span, he has scored 23.7 fantasy points, 28.8, 27.2, 22.3, 35.2, and 28.4. So I would definitely think about rostering him, as he is only 11% rostered in Yahoo leagues right now. So definitely consider rostering him, but keep in mind he is questionable to play on Friday due to left ankle soreness. And that's just because the Spurs are coming off of a back-to-back from December 2nd and December 3rd. And they probably are thinking about resting him. So I would definitely keep an eye out on that. But if he plays, he should be rostered in 14-plus team leagues and streamed in 12-plus team leagues. All right, so that'll do it for my 14-plus team league ads. I did want to mention before I sign off that I do daily streamers on X. I do 12-plus streamers every single day. And these are all players that are less than 30% rostered on Yahoo. All right, and that's it for today's episode of On Fire Fantasy. Just as a reminder, you can find my rest of season points league rankings over on Fantrax. And you can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunne is spelled Dunne. So keep those rosters lit and the points rolling. Merry Christmas. I'm Jacob Dunne, and I'll catch you next time.